Once upon a time, a church started at a movie theater. It's the movie theater right behind me, 9/14/14, September 14th, 2014. A few weeks in, we had about 75 folks. That's kids and adults. We're a small church, just doing whatever it took. We're loading in, loading out every week. A lot of work, a lot of sweat to become Relentless Church. But if I'm honest, the seeds for Relentless Church go way before 2014. I went by myself to Charlotte, to Cricket Arena, to attend a Christmas service of a predominantly white church and a predominantly black church coming together to do this service. And it was inspiring, it was moving. Something happened in me. That was really the beginning of a call on my life to pastor a multi-ethnic church. It was a few years after that my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He is with Jesus today, but after his death in 2012, I could feel the Spirit of God saying, you know how short life is. Like, what are you waiting for? You know what I've called you to do. Let's go. So we began to take steps to move our family here to Raleigh and to eventually start Relentless Church right here at Crossroads Theater. A part of that was going to a conference called Kainos. It was a conference about how to do multi-ethnic church, and it was the biblical foundation for the multi-ethnic church. For me to learn, this wasn't a fad, this wasn't new, it was only new in America. And then the next year at that same conference, I was able to bring back some brothers that were part of Relentless, continue just to build the undergirding, the system and structure of what multi-ethnic church is practically and biblically, and we were on our way. There was so much that I didn't know then and so much that I don't know now, but what I did know then and what we still know today, that God is calling us to be a gospel-centered, forever focused, multi-ethnic movement of God. From the very early stages of Relentless Church, God was good to us in showing us lives being changed. We've always been, hopefully always will be, a church for the untold and unconvinced. So we had people coming in those early days, and they said, you know, we like y'all, but we just don't believe this stuff. This invisible Jesus, we just don't buy it. We saw the gospel move them from that to, oh my goodness, this could be real, and then eventually move them to, I'm gonna trust this Jesus with my life and start a real relationship with him, all built on our church name, that God really is a relentless God. He just keeps showing up every day with his grace, with his mercy, inviting us into a relationship with him. So we've built this thing on these statements that we're about relationship, not religion. We're about transformation, not transaction. We're about a lifestyle over a list. We're about faith over feelings. And we're about training over trying. And after 10 years, we can say, it works. It not meaning Relentless Church, but it meaning the gospel, that it actually is the power of God. It's strong enough to unite people that are different, to bring people together and keep them together.
We did not stand with Jesus 10 years ago.
How our lives, look different today than I think they would have without Relentless and Jesus in our lives. Definitely our marriage. Our relationships with our kids, our relationships with our parents, our relationships with friends, family, how we interact with coworkers. But I don't know that we would be here together if it wasn't for Jesus working in our marriage.
We now have a family that we have, come into relationship with, that we get to walk with, that we get to serve with and bring others to the gospel. When we moved to Wake County 10 years ago, I remember one of my biggest prayers was, Lord, please let there be some neighborhood kids for our kids to play with. And he took that prayer also and gave us Relentless Church. And so a family that we've come into relationship with and get to walk with.
I think for both of us is our children and their engagement. Their commitment to living a Christ-like life, their commitment to showing up. I believe God can do anything and all things, but to be able to see that growth in our children as a result of being at Relentless and being present at Relentless and having the relationships that they've built at Relentless and the people who've taken the time to invest in them, individually and collectively for us as a family. I think all of that has been a huge part of how Relentless has impacted our family and grown our family. Even to the point where they're bringing other people And so I think that for me is an indication of just how they value the space that Relentless has provided them to grow spiritually.
Just the impact that, like, I truly believe we're different people because of who we've come in contact with at Relentless. And so giving for this is not going to be as scary as, you know, it may have been before. So
I love our church. There's so much to love about Relentless Church, but we're only a sliver, a speck, a taste of what we can be and what we're gonna be. We're entering a capital campaign that we've titled Immeasurably More, and it's immeasurably more of everything that God has done that he's gonna continue to do. But our next step is to own something as far as property, as far as a building. We have had the urge to own something for several years, and now God has made it clear that that is our next step. With owning something comes credibility. It gives you roots in the community. It gives you a higher level of impact and freedom to do the ministry that God has called you to do. Right now, as a church, we own a soundboard, and that's about it. So we need to make a move. We are a generous church. We are a loving church. But we are not a wealthy church. So here we stand at a crossroads having to do something. Why do we have to do something? We had to start this capital campaign for two reasons. Number one, because of our lease. Our lease is up February 1st, 2027. So approximately 2.5 years from now, if we do nothing and just enjoy all that God is doing and blessing at Relentless and do nothing else, then come February 1st, 2027, we're gonna have nowhere to meet, nowhere to gather, nowhere to worship, nowhere to do ministry. So we have to do something because of that. The other reason we have to do something, the word that God keeps putting in front of my face is ripe. The harvest is ripe. There is so much hunger for a unified, gospel-centered, multi-ethnic church. So people are looking for this. They're desperate for something that's real and authentic. People are just fed up with the being one thing and then finding out behind the curtain that it's something else. They just have no patience or tolerance for that. But if they can find something real and authentic, people are ready to jump in on that. People are also just desperate to be united. Our culture, our country is so divided. They just are almost scared to believe that there could be something big enough and strong enough to unite people from all different places, walks, and nations, as he's doing here. So the $1 million question, or the several $1 million question, is what are we gonna own? I don't know. I know that we're either gonna find something and buy it and renovate it to make it our church home, or we're gonna have to find some land and build a building from scratch that'll be our church home. Which of those? I wish I knew. And I would so like to be able to give you all the specific details of how we're gonna do this and what we're gonna buy and purchase. I just honestly do not know. And God has gotten me excited about that that's not a bad thing that I and we don't know yet. That's the difference between testimony and faith. We got to this building because God brought us here from the theater. That wasn't a faith thing, that was God just doing it, right? We want to do this one different, right? We want to have the faith on the front end. We don't know the details, but we are sure that God has a beautiful plan for us. So we're going to state that, declare that, worship him through that on the front end. And as he chooses to reveal the specific details, that'll be beautiful. But for this campaign, we're giving to an unknown building. We're just giving to have a home, to own something, to do more, immeasurably more of the things that God has called Relentless Church to do.
This is our family. The church is our family. How do we help create and build a home for our family and support that? And doing something that's bigger than us, you know, what this campaign looks like and how this will move the church, it will impact not just us in the next few years and 10 years, but when you and I are long gone and our kids are there in the next generations, this is a foundational moment and pivotal moment in not just Relentless Church, but what Relentless Church can do for the kingdom and for Christ from now until eternity.
I know that he's going to come through in a way that we don't expect, or do something that we thought couldn't be done in general. I'm super excited about it.
I am most excited about what that's going to do for the children. The children's ministry, what that space is going to look like, what opportunities we have. My faith is really important to me, but my children and them knowing God is really what's my focus at this point in my life. and making sure that they have a good foundation and they are loved and in a place where they can see Jesus and feel Jesus and learn about Jesus and just be wrapped and surrounded by him. And I think our church is going to grow tremendously in that way, and it's going to be a blessing to the church and to the Raleigh area and to the world. So as our children grow up and go out and do great things for Jesus.
I think that for me is what's exciting, is that I understand now how God is going to show up and show out, and people are going to leave with that. And I know that that is way more impactful or more powerful than any building, any place that we could own or rent or build or fly to. It's this seed of faith that God is going to multiply and grow inside of people, and it's going to embolden them to really live out a life for Christ. And that for me is what this campaign at the end of it looks like. And it's what makes me most excited.
Honestly, probably my biggest concern about even doing a capital campaign, I just felt uncomfortable about spending all these weeks and times and videos, begging for money and dig deep and me asking you to give everything you got. I do believe it's worth it, but I've understood now my job is not to ask you to give everything you have. If you want to, that's great. My job is to ask you to listen to God and obey what he says. We're asking everybody that's a part of Relentless Church, and even some folks that are hundreds of miles away, that if you would ask God if he wants you to be a part of this and listen to whatever he tells you, and whether you give whatever amount of money is irrelevant. If you give anything to this campaign, there is no small parts of this campaign. You will be a part of the greater kingdom-driven cause that God is doing in Relentless Church. So I want to invite you into this campaign on the front end before we see all God's going to do, and we can declare together in faith to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask, think, dream, or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.